everyone, welcome to Play Hooky with me. My name is Roz and today I'm sharing how to make this beginner-friendly crochet pillow. This is just a very basic pattern using single crochets, and I'm going to show you how you can take even the simplest stitch and turn it into something cute and fun just by adding a couple of embellishments. As always, there are timestamps below as well as along the progress line, so you can skip to your point of interest. Okay, I think that's about it, so let's play some hooky. For the pillow in the video, I used a 14 by 14 pillow insert. I got this at my local craft shop just for a few dollars, and a skein of the Bernat blanket, which is just a chenille yarn. So any kind of chenille yarn should work. The one here that I'm using is a super bulky number 6 and required an 8mm hook. You will easily get a 14 by 14 pillow out of this skein. It has 220 yards and weighs 300 grams. I believe I had 87 grams left over when I was all finished. I tried really hard to make it reach the 16 by 16 pillow size, but there just wasn't enough. So if you want to do a 16 by 16, you will need 2 skeins of yarn. Instead of making 2 panels and stitching them together, we're going to be making the front and the back of the pillowcase at the same time. So to start that, we're going to start with our base chain. If you're working on a 14 by 14 with me, you want to chain until you reach the 14-inch mark. You don't want to stretch this too tight or make it too short. Just do a comfortable stretch to reach 14. For me and my tension, it took me 25 chains to reach the 14-inch mark. I'm not going to go all the way up to 14 on this sample. I'm just going to do 10 chains to show you what we're working on. Once you've reached your chain count to reach your 14 inches or whatever size pillow you're making, go ahead and chain 1. This is going to be your turning chain. Okay, and from here on out, we're just going to be dealing with single crochets. Skip the very first chain next to your hook, going into the second chain with your first single crochet, and continue all the way down. Just a quick tip here, if you're used to threading the yarn through your fingers when you're crocheting, you may find it sticks too much. I found that if I just kind of hold it with the top finger, it's a lot easier to work with. Be sure to get that little chain right next to the slip knot there. Okay, go ahead and double check your count here. Make sure you have 25 stitches if you're following along with my count. Now we're ready for row 2. Just chain 1, turn. Now we're just going to be doing single crochets all the way across, and this is all we're doing for the whole complete pillow. Single crochets. Make sure to get into that very first stitch. It's very easy to miss. Make double sure you get into that very last stitch. It's very easy to miss as well. I find it's important to go ahead and check my count with every row. It's very easy to skip or miss a stitch. So based on my measurements, it took me 24 rows to reach the 14-inch height of the front of my pillow. So I'm going to do 24 for the front panel plus 24 for the back panel. So I will have a total of 48 rows when I'm all finished. Okay, now you should have something that looks like this, but on a larger scale, of course. You should have a very long rectangle now. At this point, you may want to fold this over your pillow insert just to make sure that you've got plenty of room to fit your pillow insert into it. You may want to add a couple of rounds here if you feel like it's going to be too tight. And then once you feel comfortable with that, it's time to seam the 2 sides together. You have a couple of options here. If you don't want to do this with a tapestry needle, you can absolutely join the 2 sides with single crochets or even slip stitches. I prefer doing it this way because it gives me a very flat seam and doesn't take up a lot of room on the sides. Go ahead and cut off a piece of yarn that is 2 to 3 lengths the size or the width of the area that you're going to be seaming. I'm just going to go into the corner here. I'm not tying anything. I'm going to be weaving in these ends later. I'm not creating a knot. I'm going to be using a mattress stitch, and that just means that I'm going to be weaving back and forth almost like a crisscross, and I'm going to be working in between these stitches instead of wrapping. This will give you an almost invisible seam here. It's not perfect, but because we're working with the same color, you will not be able to see this seam. I sort of started on the back side over here, so I'm going to go in here, just gathering and going in between the stitches and pulling through. Now we're going to cross back over. And like I said, it's not perfect. I'm just doing the best I can to get in between these stitches. Going back over. Okay, and then when you're finished, just complete that side. I would hold off on weaving in this end. I would go ahead and do the other side. Fit your insert in there. Make sure everything's fitting the way that you want before you go ahead and commit to weaving in these ends. Weaving them in is really easy to do. I would just go back in and just sort of thread it through, just back and forth underneath. We're going to be working with single crochets again. You can begin two different ways. Either start with a magic circle and work 3 single crochets into the magic circle. But if you don't want to deal with a magic ring, it is kind of fiddly with this yarn. You can go ahead and just put a slip knot on your hook and do a chain 3. Add the 3 single crochets into that very first chain that you made, the one closest to the slip knot. Do 3 single crochets into there. Both will give you the same look and effect. Once you're ready, go ahead and chain 1 and turn. Now we're going to be doing an increase here. We're going to take our 3 stitches and turn it into 6. So we're going to do an increase in each one of these stitches. That just means we're doing 2 single crochets in each of these stitches. Okay, at this point you'll have 6 stitches. Chain 1 and turn. Okay, and now we're going to do another increase. We're going to go from 6 to 12. Okay, you should have something that looks like this. Your ear's pretty much done here. If you're working on a 14 by 14, go ahead and chain 1 and then do 1 single crochet all the way across, just one more row of 12 single crochets. If you're working on a 16 by 16 bear and you want your ear to be bigger, then I would recommend that you do another increase row here, taking your stitches from 12 to 18. And all you have to do for that is do a single crochet, increase, single crochet, increase all the way across, and that will give you 18 stitches. But we're just working on a 14 by 14 here, and so I have my 12. I'm happy with the size, so I'm going to chain 1 and turn and just do single crochets in the top of all of these stitches. Okay, and then once you're happy with the size of your ear, give yourself a nice tail and fasten off. Once I've seamed both sides of my pillow, I like to add the ears next, and that's very easy to do. Obviously, this is much bigger than the sample, but you should be able to see how it's done here. I've taken the long tail that I finished with, and I'm just going to go into the very top corner here. I'm just going to go and seam this onto the very center of that fold, getting into this corner to attach it. I just work on the outside here. I don't worry about making sure the tail goes on the inside. I can weave it in later, but I just do my best to get right into that corner. And then all I'm going to do is I'm just going to go in and getting the chain area of the base of the ear here and just seaming along that. Okay, getting into that very last corner there. And then threading it through into the back. At this point, I would recommend that you don't weave in any ends. I would go ahead and work on the other ear, and I would place the pillow insert inside, making sure that the ears are laying the way that you want them to when the insert is in there. Once I seamed the sides and added the ears, that's when I was ready to add the face. I did it in that order. For the eyes and the nose, I'm going to be working in rounds, so I'm going to start with a magic circle. If you don't like doing magic circles, go ahead and chain 3 or 4 and secure with a slip stitch. One little tip here, if you decide to do the chain 3 with a slip stitch, go ahead and carry that tail along, and then when you're finished with this round, you can pull on that tail and it will cinch your center closed. Either way, once you're ready, go ahead and do 6 single crochets for the beginning round. Cinch your center closed. For round 2, we're just going to do an increase. We're going to take the 6 stitches and turn it into 12. We're just going to do 2 single crochets in each stitch around. And then once you're finished, go ahead and do a slip stitch to close the ring. Just a quick tip here when you're working on your nose. If you want your nose to be bigger, after you've finished with your 12 single crochets, you can go around it again with another round of 12 single crochets. Or if you want to increase it even more, you can do another round of increasing and take it from 12 stitches to 18. So to get it up to 18, you would do a single crochet, an increase, a single crochet, all the way around. And give yourself a nice long tail. You're going to be using this to stitch onto your pillow. And for the eyes, I'm doing a magic circle again. Just going to do 8 single crochets. Tighten your center, going into that first stitch, secure with a slip stitch. And then again, make sure that you give yourself a nice long tail to attach to your pillow. To add a highlight into the eyes, I just took some white yarn that I had around, and I just went in with a tapestry needle, and just kind of under these chains here, I just went ahead and just did a stitch. Okay. And then I just tied it in the back. Be careful not to tie too tightly because it will disappear in the black. Quick little tip here when you are working on the face. I went ahead and took some scrap paper and a felt tip marker and just made the shape of the eyes and the nose and placed that on the pillow before I committed to any stitching. This way I could experiment with the placement without having to keep undoing stitches. I'm just using the long tail that I created with the nose and the eyes, and that's what I'm going to use to stitch this in place. I didn't have any issues embroidering the nose and the eyes on with the 2 sides seamed together, so I think you should be fine. fine. Another tip with the nose before I sewed it on was I kind of changed the shape of this a little bit to give it more of a triangle effect. And rather than going around the sides, I decided to go in right under the chains here to stitch it in place. And I did the same thing for the eyes. Just working in. And then going back through. And then when I was all finished, I just went in with a few passes just to secure. And once you have everything finished on your bear and you're happy with it, it's time to seam the bottom. Now you may find that you want to just add some buttons to the bottom of your pillow. You can just stitch a button on one side and then just use the holes that are on the other side for your buttonhole. You can do that, maybe 3 buttons would be nice. But I decided with this one, I was just going to do the mattress seam as well and just not knot or tie in the ends when I'm finished. I'm just going to continue doing the mattress seam, and then with the tail that I have left over, I'm just going to tuck it inside. So in case I want to remove this for whatever reason or wash it. One quick little tip here I wanted to show you. If you have an insert that has a zipper like this, it gives you easy access to get to the stuffing inside. So if you find that your pillow is a bit overstuffed and you want it to lay a bit flatter to help with the shape of the face, go ahead and just pull a little bit of that stuffing out. Or if you're dealing with an opposite situation, you want to fill it with more stuffing, these little ones with the zipper are really convenient for that.